Now, Republican candidate for Minnesota Governor Chris Madel just announced that he is ending his campaign. Here's why.
Clarify, Trump's ICE strategy in Minnesota is so bad that Republicans are just quitting races rather than defend it. Yeah, that seems like a huge problem for Trump heading into 2026. According to reports, attorney Chris Madel dropped out of the Republican race for Minnesota governor. And well, he didn't do it quietly either.
I support the originally stated goals of Immigration's and Customs Enforcement's Operation Metro Surge in locating and deporting the worst of the worst from our state. Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. At the end of the day, I have to look my daughters in the eye and tell them I believe I did what was right. And I am doing that today.
He quit while condemning what he described as a campaign of, quote, retribution against Minnesota by federal authorities tied to the Trump administration. And of course, the surge of immigration enforcement in the state. That's not a normal campaign announcement or development, to say the least. That is a Republican candidate looking at the current political landscape and basically saying, screw this and these people, they're out of control.
Today, I announced the end of my campaign. I have two primary reasons for this decision. Number one, I cannot support the National Republican's stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. I support the originally stated goals of Immigration's and Customs Enforcement's Operation Metro Surge in locating and deporting the worst of the worst from our state. And I've seen many examples of ICE arresting non-U.S. citizens in Minnesota convicted of serious crimes, including murder, rape, and child sexual assault. No reasonable person should want these people here, and I am glad that they are gone. But Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. ICE has authorized its agents to raid homes using a civil warrant that need only be signed by a Border Patrol agent. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong. Weaponizing criminal investigations against political opponents is unconstitutional, regardless of who is in power. Republicans and Democrats alike have engaged in this misconduct. And both must be held to the same standard. They need to do better.
The second reason Madel gave for dropping out was that he says national Republicans have made it impossible for a Republican to win in Minnesota. And again, just to underscore this, he's not a fair weather immigration guy, this Republican. He is a guy who offered legal counsel to the officer who shot Renee Good.
And also, before Republicans claim this is just an outsider or a nobody, he wasn't a fringe candidate at all, according to the Minnesota Star Tribune. Madel had consistently finished in the top 3 in straw polls. This comes amid increased tensions in Minnesota, with Trump revamping his ICE strategy in the wake of yet another deadly shooting. Trump also decided to dispatch Border Caesar Tom Homan in Minnesota in replace of Gremlin Bovino, or whatever his name is. Pretty telling, right?
Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. To follow on Gabe's question, Secretary Noem said Alex Preddy committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Preddy a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Preddy in that way. However, I have heard the president say he wants to let the facts in the investigation lead itself.
Was he alarmed to hear his top officials referring to him in that way, rushing to that judgment?
Danny, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline.
And the key takeaway from this is basically that this isn't Democrats saying Trump is a liability. This is a Republican candidate acting like Trump is a liability. Not to mention, this also coincides with the notable shift that we've seen this week on Trump's favorite news channel, Fox News.
But, the question I've asked a number of times today, Ted, is who goes to a protest and brings a gun? I mean, was he not asking for some kind of trouble in that situation?
No, I really don't think so, John. Look, I've been on this channel on numerous occasions where we talk about the Second Amendment and the right to carry firearms. And I've known people to go to demonstrations before in the past and to have firearms with him. Or he didn't do anything with that firearm. That man is dead. And there's a question mark as to whether he should have been killed under these circumstances.
Another individual is dead at the hands of Border Patrol. Let's be clear. We do not know if there was any pushback from this individual who was armed. We do not have evidence that he was waving a gun, doing anything to threaten Border Patrol. He had his phone and he was shooting. He was viewing and recording the incident. That's what he was doing, recording the incident. Mm-hmm. What is your reaction? And you are an elected official. What can you do about it?
Where hosts just couldn't stomach the picture the Trump administration was trying to portray of the most recent deadly shooting, resulting in the death of ICU nurse Alex Pretty at the hands of ICE agents.
And by the way, don't let the left kid you with this, that this is just a normal protest where people are peacefully protesting. No, it's not. Peaceful protesters don't have 9mm weapons with 2 extra magazines. Peaceful protesters, I don't know about you, but I'm sure the same as me. I don't go in my closet and I don't have professional grade gas masks.
And I think what frustrates people, you remember Kyle Rittenhouse and how he was made a hero on the right. I am sure there are people on the conservative side who are saying, wait a minute, you mean you can't take a firearm to a protest because you were just celebrating the guy for doing it a couple of years ago? Alex Pretty's firearm was lawfully being carried. It's lawful to carry a gun in Minnesota. He never brandished it. He didn't point it at the cops.
You see, Trump's ICE surge in Minnesota was positioned as this show of strength to reinstill law and order, but it's become a spiral of violence, backlash, and clearly political damage.
And the president.
Have you seen the body cam video? I was unaware you had.
You
the
know
body
what? It's
cam
going to exonerate all the agents. You're completely right. Stephen Miller saying an assassin tried to murder federal agents, and this is your response. And J.D. Vance retweeting it says something about where this administration is and how they're considering it before and after the murder of Alex Pretty. And this will go down in history as a turning point for this. Greg Bovino wouldn't be leaving tomorrow if an innocent person wasn't killed. And the double standards that are being employed for how you have to behave versus how these agents have to behave is mind-boggling to me. Kyle Rittenhouse was a conservative hero, right? For walking into a protest, actually brandishing a weapon. But this guy who had a legal permit to carry and already had his gun removed, to some people, I guess, is some sort of instigator when he was actually going to help a woman who had been pushed down and tear gassed by ICE. We have the right to protest. That should be upheld and respected, and it is not being. They were not.
Did you call for?
It looks very untrained. It looks unprofessional. It looks very chaotic. It doesn't look like there's clear teamwork tactically to achieve the same objective. And it is absolutely not how we train law enforcement in Minnesota. And I think the greater issue, the greater concern is, people should be able to have an expectation that the federal government can enforce federal immigration law without these poor tactics and really unconstitutional practices.
Recently, as the last 2 weeks, we as law enforcement community have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations in our streets from U.S. citizens. What we're hearing is they're being stopped in traffic stops or on the street with no cause and being forced to demand paperwork to determine if they are here legally. As this went on over the past 2 weeks, we started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color who has had this happen to them. In Brooklyn Park, one particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped as she passed ICE going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, prevented her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers, but what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted, and that's what they were. If it is happening to our officers, it pains me to think of how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day. It has to stop.
So severe that even Republican candidates are quitting rather than be tied to it. And well, Fox News can't spin it in Trump's favor.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.